Active.
The Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, I would like to stand to congratulate the Minister, Nick Smith, for introducing a number of aspects in this piece of legislation which will see the improvement of the operation of the social housing and affordable housing sector right across New Zealand, involving both government and community housing providers. But there are two particular aspects that I'd like to congratulate the Minister on. First of all, that those who are genuinely in need will be helped by the state and these community housing providers during the duration of their need. That means that when households become self-sufficient, earning hundreds, over $100,000, or are in their state of health is such that they can move to the private sector, that they are able to move on and open up the state house for someone else in line needing a state house. Gone are the days where someone can sit in a state house for 30 or 40 years when their incomes have improved, the families left home, they can easily rent privately or in fact purchase their own home. And we see that as part of a mutual obligation. It's very interesting that Dr Nick Smith will oversee this year the last state house in New Zealand to be insulated that can be insulated. Although the Labour Party in 9 years in government, I believe, talked a lot about how they supported state housing and state house tenants, they left tens of thousands of state houses uninsulated. And that's quite unbelievable, isn't it? That they harp on about state housing, their love for the tenants, but they couldn't do something as simply insulate a house. The cost $3,000 or $4,000 are not a lot per house, but they weren't prepared to do that. But Nick Smith will see every house in New Zealand, state house in New Zealand, insulated that can be insulated. And the mutual obligation there is, of course, that he will stand firmly against those few state house tenants involved in gangs and cooking pea in the kitchen. He'll stand against those. He'll say you can't beat up the neighbours you can't disturb the neighbours, you can't trade in illegal goods inside your state house. So there's a big tidy up of the sector, and I must say that the large majority of state house tenants are grateful for those two things. First of all, that their houses are being insulated after all those years living in the cold under the Labour Party. And secondly, that those neighbours who do stir up trouble, those gangs that do cook pea, those gangs that run up and down the streets beating up their neighbours, are being brought under control by Housing New Zealand. And so I congratulate Nick Smith on the new reviewable tenancies, on upgrading those state houses and on bringing those mutual obligations forward. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate the Minister in supporting this bill. The beginning of bringing in the community housing sector with some seriousness, forging the relationship, if you like, between government and iwi and community housing organisations, making sure that community housing organisations, their expertise, their assets, their cash, their tenants are brought together with Housing New Zealand's assets, Housing New Zealand's expertise and Housing New Zealand's tenants. So forging that relationship. The Labour Party talked a lot about that, but never passed income-related rents to the community housing sector in 9 years. Of course, now that we're doing that, we're funding the community housing sector with income-related rents funding. According to the Labour Party, it's not enough. Of course, zero wasn't enough when they were in government for 9 years, and I'm delighted that Nick Smith is actually walking the Labour Party's talking. He's doing everything they wax lyrical about in 9 years. He's going ahead and doing it. The Labour Party have no solutions. They sat on their hands for 9 years. I congratulate Dr Nick Smith for all that he's doing in Nelson and right across New Zealand.
Speaker. Sue Moroney.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Musical chairs was a game that was fun, wasn't it, at birthday parties when we were growing up? That idea that everyone, you put a bunch of chairs out there and the music started, and when the music stopped,